friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction video 769. Chatting that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. It is Wednesday once again, my friends. So y'all know who we're about to go back to. Mike from that chapter. That Chapter Wednesdays being team. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to help with the bean. And the title of the video is The Scariest Disappearances That Are Still a Mystery. Now, we just dealt with this yesterday, y'all, when we was watching Chillin' Scares latest video. And now we finna get right back into this mystery rabbit hole type of ish. But you know what? I'm ready to get into it. But before we get into it, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please, because it is always a delight when we get to go back to Mike. Y'all got what y'all need, y'all ready to go. Then let's go.
Hey you and welcome, my name is Mike, and in this solo video we are looking once again at I think what is probably the most disturbing series that, I talk about here, I tell you about on that chapter, and that is the scariest disappearances that are still a mystery to this day. I mean, some of these circumstances in which people just inexplicably vanish and are never seen again, some of these ones, maybe hopefully they won't always be mysteries, but they sure as SHITE are right now. Thank you so much for being here, big dog. Now, what say you? Let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go and get whatever you may need.
So with this video, I wanted to do it kind of iceberg style, with each disappearance being more creepy and mysterious than the one previous, though I might have messed that up. Because the story of Logan Shendelman, it is as baffling as it is a hell of a lot of other strange adjectives. The biggest being WTF. I know that's not an adjective, but it will do. This story is so strange because there's a few witness accounts of Logan's last known movements, and they all seem to contradict each other. And this is from the witnesses. It involves a car swerving across a highway, multiple men being seen around it, a person booking it into the woods, and then another fellow walking down the road with no pants on. But mainly it involves a young man from Washington State, name of Logan. In 2016, Logan was 19 years of age, born and raised in Tumwater, Washington by his maternal grandmother, Ginny. Logan's mother had moved to Seattle shortly after he was born, leaving him with his grandmother, and Logan's father was from Saudi Arabia. Never even met the fella. Logan saw his mom from time to time, but it was really just Logan, his sister Chloe, Grandma Ginny, and Ginny's husband Bill. Growing up, young Logan was like the star of the show. And I actually mean that quite literally, because even today, if you go on his Facebook page, he's got so many videos. He was filming kind of like everything he did.
Okay, what are you guys doing? Hitting each other? Why are you guys racing, facing each other?
Camera on him and he goes,
You're recording.
no, I'm not. Seriously.
Like, for real?
He was always getting up to all sorts, but all sorts was like of the football sort. He was smart, funny, charming, he was good at football. He was like the sort of guy when you're in school, you're thinking, this effing guy, you kind of hate him, but you also kind of can't help but like him because he's just such a nice guy. However, behind closed doors, things were not always easy for Logan, not that you'd ever know. Because he was biracial, he always struggled with his identity, and sometimes he had to leave friends over things they said to him. His mother left when he was 2 years old. His dad effed off to Arabia, never to be heard from again. He had abandonment issues, as you can imagine. But you know what? He was gonna build a bridge and make like a banana tree and leave. And he did. He graduated high school and left his hometown of Tumwater, Washington, never to return. For like a year. He did 1 year at Washington State, and then he came home. He did 1 year at Washington State, although did a year at Washington State is kind of misleading, because he was basically just partying and having a grand old time, and like failed and flunked out of all of his classes, and basically the university said, don't bother kind of coming back for year 2, because you'd even do year 2 would just be year 1 again. So they said, you know, take a year out. Maybe we'll take you in later on. And you know, a lot of people, after they finish high school, taking a year out can be a good idea. And that was the plan for Logan. He returned home to Tumwater, who moved back in with Grandma Ginny and her husband Bill, and began working minimum wage jobs, that sort of thing. Whatever needed doing, he done did. When he wasn't doing that, he was basically doing what a lot of young fellas do. Video games, beer, dare I say the devil's lettuce? I dare. And so, till the moment his life took a fairly disturbing and frankly frightening turn, he was more or less just a regular ass young man. He drank.
That's what I was gonna say. Being seemed like it sounded like Mike. He describing Logan, but in a way he describing me when I was a young college student. You know what I'm saying? When I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I was a beer drinking, video game playing, devil's lettuce smoking. You know what I'm saying? He don't really seem like evil, or he grew up in a good household because his grandparents took care of him and raised him. But you know, his mom and his daddy was not in his life, and that kind of elf with him. But he don't have like no negative traits going on right now. You know, he dropped out of college. Hell, I dropped out of college. There's millions of people in the freaking world who done dropped out of college. You know what I'm saying? That's not nothing bad about him. And now he has returned home, and he just a regular Joe Schmo smoking his devil Leto. If you know, you know. Let's go.
He smoked. But most people like do it at that age. He wasn't getting into any sort of like major trouble. He wasn't a troublemaker like of any sort. It was on May 18th, 2016 that Logan walked into his grandmother's kitchen and, well, like apprehensively said he had something to tell his grandma Ginny. That day was a Wednesday, and he told her that he would be gone for the following weekend. Why? He had an epiphany. He had one of them. So Ginny said, okay, you're going to be gone for the weekend. Well, you know, please share us this beloved epiphany. And he said, well, you know, it's kind of like one of those epiphanies. I can't really explain it. I guess it was one of them when you know type of epiphanies. I mean, he had identity issues due to being like from actually many different kind of backgrounds. His dad was Arabic. His mother was half black, half white. He was raised by his white grandmother. But even recently, after leaving high school, he had actually like cut off a lot of his friends because they'd said some mean, racist things to him. So he was having sort of issues about that, about where did he really belong. Abandonment issues, then again, same sort of dealio. So maybe he thought he had a bright spark about who he is as a person. Perhaps it was something like that. I mean, he came into Ginny like in the very wee hours of the morning before she herself was heading off to work. So Ginny was already thinking, this is kind of weird. Whatever this epiphany was, it must be important to him because he always slept in. And as a former young man myself, it is absolutely exhausting doing nothing. So Ginny said, okie dokie, let's talk about this later on. Out the door. She went off to work. She returned home then that evening at around 5:30 p.m. And Logan was nowhere to be found. Like nowhere at all. She was like, nothing to worry about though. He's probably off with friends doing something. However, it was the next day, Thursday. He was still nowhere to be found. Again, Ginny was not panicking. He's probably just, you know, doing his thing. But she did check the, like, Find My iPhone on his phone so she could, you know, just check. Where is he? He was actually in, like, the next town over, Olympia, which is where his mother actually lives. So again, she didn't think that was weird. Maybe he's gone to stay with her. He did kind of from time to time go and spend the night with his mom, so maybe he's there. Then it gets to the next day, Friday. Logan was not answering his phone. Ginny begins calling around. Anybody seen Logan? He was not with his mom. No one had seen him. However, there was still like no need to panic yet. Hadn't he just said sure he was going away for the weekend on his epiphany business? Still though, Ginny and her husband Bill decided to drive over to where his phone had last pinged from to see if they could see him, see his car. They couldn't see his car, actually. And now his phone was not pinging anymore. It was then Saturday night and Ginny was now in full-on panic mode, having no idea where her grandson was. The last thing he'd said was that he had had an epiphany and would be gone for the weekend. What kind of epiphany did he have? Because
And that's the same question I got right now. What kind of epiphany did he have? What did he mean by that? Now that he missing, it make you think about it even more.
Epiphanies could probably be like bad. However, even though she had driven to Olympia trying to find his car, she hadn't found it. Others had found his car. And this is when the story of Logan Schendelman takes a disturbing turn. This whole video is about people who have never been found, all from different places, who all
I think this mic commercial, y'all. But yeah, man, it's like in hindsight, listening to his grandma say that he told her that he had an epiphany, and now that he freaking missing, it's like, what did he really mean by that? And like Mike said, all epiphanies are not created equal, and all of them don't mean that they was good. Some of them can be freaking bad. We just saying. I'm just saying. Let's go, Bean Team. Good video so far.
Now let's get back to it.
Back to it.
Though Ginny didn't know it yet, the day previous, the Friday, Logan's car had been involved in a very unusual incident on the freeway near Tumwater. It was around 3 p.m. and Logan's 1996 black Chrysler Sebring was driving among the packed traffic lanes when it suddenly began drifting. That's the word used by witnesses, not swerving, drifting across 3 lanes of traffic. From the far right, slow lane, to the median, towards the fast lane. Other cars had to swerve around it, like it was almost causing this giant pileup on the road, but eventually it hit the median barrier and stopped. 3 people called this in to report it, but even those reports were strange. Some of those people who were calling in to report this car almost, killing someone. Some of those people were saying they didn't see anybody in the car, that the car was empty. Others were saying they did see somebody in it, but they were unconscious. Others were saying they saw somebody in it, but they were sitting in the passenger seat of the car. Whatever the case, it didn't seem like anybody was actually driving the car. It seems from reports that the car had been on the road driving previously and driving very erratically before it pulled off the freeway, parked on the hard shoulder. Then either the car was just left in drive and it just rolled across the freeway, or they had just left the car in neutral, so it just slowly rolled off the hard shoulder, crossing then 3 lanes of traffic. It's very, very strange. It then hit the median, and some witnesses would say they'd seen somebody exit the car and just book it into the woods. Grandma Ginny learned of this on the Monday, by which time the car had been impounded by the police. So who was in the car? Was it Logan? Had he run off into the woods? No one knows. Dogs were brought in and found nothing in the woods surrounding where the car had been. One of the witnesses said the person that ran into the woods was a white guy, so not Logan. In fact, many of the witnesses who did see someone that day near the car were shown photos of Logan, but they said it wasn't him. One woman said she'd been driving that stretch of road earlier that day and had seen the car along the side of the road and had seen Logan with 2 other men. No one knows the truth of these sightings. All of Logan's shit was also still in the car. His phone, his wallet, his ID. On the ground was like a bag, an empty sandwich bag, and inside was a couple of $15, $20 bills. But there was no signs of foul play in the car.
According to the Thurston County Sheriff's Office, Logan's grandmother reported him missing. He was last seen May 19th, 2016. The next day, deputies say a trooper found Logan's black convertible abandoned near south of Tumwater on southbound I-5.
It was sort of a strange circumstance. Witnesses saw the car pull over. A male subject jumped out of the car.
The car kept going and ended up in a median. The description of the man who jumped out doesn't match Logan's appearance.
His wallet, money, everything was identification, everything was left in the car.
Logan's family says they have no reason to believe he would run away, but they do believe someone knows what happened.
Some people who have refused to talk to law enforcement very adamantly, which is unfortunate because they may have information without realizing it.
Deputies say there's still no indication of where he is or a suspect in his disappearance.
Now, when Logan was actually
I just gotta say, y'all, the major thing I just heard when listening to that news report is that the fact that somebody knows, other than God, of course God knows, but it's somebody else on this earth, you know what I'm saying, who knows what the freak happened to Logan for real. Now, I can't even really like take any of the witnesses accounts into account, if you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I can't take their words because it's like you got witnesses saying just this and that and that and this, like it's so all over the place. Only thing that I will go with that I think we all can agree on, and it's, the witnesses was pretty much saying the same thing, is that it was not actually Logan who was in the car, who got out the car and ran into the woods while the car kept rolling down the highway. I think that's one thing we can go upon. But then it's also so weird because why in the hell would his wallet and all his other possessions still be in the car? I don't know, y'all, but like the first thing I said, somebody freaking knows. We do know that somebody knows.
reported missing, police began to follow up with his phone, pinging his last known locations. And it was very, very strange. In the days previous, after he had left Tumwater, and he had never seen his grandmother again, he had driven 100 miles south to Vancouver, Washington. Went down there, but for some reason just about-faced, and then drove the 100 miles back to Tumwater, and then his car was involved in this altercation. Why he had gone then there, nobody knows. The only link from Logan to Vancouver, Washington, was that he had been chatting with some girl, like online, that he'd met like on an online dating site, but she would say she hadn't seen him. Though she would say she had received a text from him recently, saying, "I hope I survive the week. Not great." Had he? Also weirdly, was that about 10 hours after the, car altercation on the road when it drifted across, 10 hours later, on that same stretch of freeway at about like 1 a.m., a driver said they seen a man who would have matched, Logan's description walking along the side of the road wearing no pants. Where this man was spotted was near some houses frequented by drug users. If it was indeed Logan, had he got involved in some heavy shit and was just out of his mind. 1 week after he vanished, his Facebook checked into Olympia Regional Airport. Following up on that, though, it doesn't seem like he was there. Maybe his, account was hacked. Who knows? Technically, it's possible he left the country, maybe to someplace like Saudi Arabia or something to see his dad, but by all accounts, he was never interested in meeting with them, and police following up on this, doesn't seem like he was there. And after all that, no one knows what became of Logan. He's never been found to this day. After the car crashed across the highway, the entire area was searched after witnesses said they'd seen a guy run off into the woods. Nothing of him was ever found. We don't know if that was Logan or not, but a lot of witness descriptions would say it wasn't Logan. So who was driving Logan's car and what became of him? Did it have to do with this epiphany he had before he went missing? We don't even know if he was in the car, period, that day.
County football star has been missing for more than a year. Detectives are continuing to search for him.
Yeah, 19-year-old Logan Schindelman disappeared on May 19th of 2016. His car was found shortly afterwards, drifting across the lanes down I-5 near milepost 92. Witnesses say they saw someone get out and run into the woods. Well, after getting a new tip from another possible witness, today deputies reignited the search in that same area, using canines to check the woods around the Farm Boy restaurant to see if there's any sign of Logan.
So what did happen to Logan? Most probably foul play, and someone ditched his car and ran off into the woods. The car was fingerprinted, but no usable prints were found. The car was pretty dirty. Had he been involved with drugs more than people knew and had met some shady folk? It's possible. Others have theories about his sister, Chloe, her boyfriend, Jacob. Allegedly, Jacob and Logan did not get on at all, and Jacob had a bit of a history, a violent history, so they, maybe he did something to Logan, but the police have interviewed him, they polygraphed him, they said he is clear. More than likely, Logan had some kind of mental break and just absolutely vanished. Maybe as part of this mental break, he encountered some unscrupulous characters who did something to him, stole his car, and then in some kind of incident, the car crashed, and then they just ran away. It's an absolutely bizarre disappearance with no clues about what happened to Logan when his car ended up being involved in such a strange incident. The interesting thing is that his epiphany would lead you to believe he knew something was going to happen, though tragically no one ever thought it would be this. Searches have been done for Logan over the years, but nothing has ever been found.
Man, that's one of those freaking unsolved mysteries that I hate the most, Bean Team, because there's not even enough evidence or enough clues for me to even try to come up with a theory of what possibly could have happened to Logan. Like, we left with nothing, and then when Mike got to the end of the story, I was sitting right there like, damn, that's it? Like, I need a little more so I can hopefully try to congregate something up in my head of what would have happened to him, but it's like, nah. Y'all, I don't know what the freak happened to Logan. Like, I sit back, and if I really want to just try to go with some type of theory, I think that he had some ish going on that none of us ain't know about. Like, he had some friends or associates or partners or people he knew that was very dangerous, whether it was in the drug game, the money game, or whatever, that will end up, he got into some mess with them, got into some debt, maybe something along those lines, and then he ended up getting caught up in the mess and they end up killing him. Or that's just me trying to come up with something, Being Team. Or maybe it was a little more simpler. Maybe Logan he had went down that, he had drove 100 miles as far as like his GPS on his phone with the police search down somewhere south. Maybe he got somebody robbed and killed him on the road or something. Man, you get what I'm saying now, man. Like, is this one of those ones where I don't know, man. Any type of theory will work. All I know is that it was some foul play involved. I really do feel like it was some foul play involved. And it's somebody on this earth, as we speak, Being Team, as I freaking speak to y'all right now, who is the murderer of Logan, and he is still walking free. Let's go, y'all. Let's go.
Frankly, the word I would use to describe the Lost Boys of Pickering is haunting. Prepare to be haunted. Let's go back to the year 1995, March 17th of that year. Wasn't it only Paddy's Day? That was when Chad Smith, 18 years of age, and Jay Boyle, Jamie Lefevre, Michael Cummings, Robbie Rumbold, and Danny Higgins, all 17 years of age, vanished. All were from the region just north of Toronto, Canada. All from those little towns and cities along Lake Ontario. Not really like a whole lot is known about this case, but what we do know is that all 6 of those pretty close friends were out drinking, partying at a neighborhood party of course it was St. Patrick's Day. They were drinking, they were smoking, and late that night at around 12:40 a.m., the 6 of them all decided to just go for a wander, get some of that good old, cold ass lake air into your lungs. It'll make you feel better, it'll wash away all that booze. Maybe they just had a few too many Molsons. No moose heads allowed. Not again.
I don't know why I keep drinking this.
That wouldn't be the thing that would get washed away, though. Go for a casual stroll, however, they did not do. Now, all 6 of the boys were well experienced on the water. All had been out there many times, even stolen boats before. This wasn't their first rodeo doing something like this. What we do know, what is theorized, is that they attempted, and they successfully attempted, to break into nearby Frenchman's Bay, a marina there, and they were caught on CCTV doing so. They had done this before. A little trick they liked to play was to steal beer from boats parked up there. That was the last time they were ever seen. Residents nearby would say they heard a motorboat that night. And then, we really don't know. A few of the boys' girlfriends actually reported them missing that night, as they were supposed to meet up and continue partying. The first call to police was made at 3:30 a.m. I mean, this is a case where little is known. Only 3 of the boys were caught on CCTV. Where were the other 3? Not much is even known about the boys other than Jay, who had a criminal history, assault, and he was living with his girlfriend and baby daughter at the time. However, he was much loved by his family and was a popular fella. What is believed to have happened is that the 6 boys, even though only 3 of them were seen on camera, the 6 of them broke into the marina and stole 2 boats. One a paddle boat, and the other a 13-foot Boston whaler. They then disappeared on the lake. Though they were reported missing, the police didn't actually bother to begin the search for 36 hours. The reason they were so slow to take a look into this was that some of the boys were well known to the police. So even though they were reported missing 2 hours after they were last seen, the police kind of just, brushed it off. They'll show up, you know yourself. Even when the parents called, the police were quick to still downplay anything, bad happening. Which of course makes all this the more tragic. But no sign of the boats or boys was ever found.
Yeah, I feel like the police dropped the ball with that one, man. Even though these probably was troublemakers and, they'll show back up. You can't have that type of attitude, that type of demeanor when it comes to this, man. They missing. We need to try to find them. You know what I'm saying? Especially 36 hours later. You know what I'm saying? Now, and they was reported 2 hours after they had went missing. Like, nah, man, y'all should have started an investigation a lot faster than that, especially when it's a group of them. It's literally 6 people missing right now. Ain't just 1 or 2. It's 6. So something crazy more than likely got to be going on. Let's keep listening to this story, y'all, because I got some crazy theories in my head. But hold on, real quick. Long story short, story long. I'm not going to even try to make this story long, Bean Team, but it's in my head right now. It's so crazy that I'm listening to this story right now because literally today at work, a dude named Mike, I call him Miller Mike because he like to drink Miller Lights, but I call him Miller Mike, and he an older white guy, and he had been working at this job way before I have. You know what I'm saying? He was working back in the 80s at this same job, but back in the 90s, they didn't have a fence around like the parking lot where the employees park at. Way back then, they didn't have a fence, so there used to be people who would walk up to their cars and try to steal stuff like on their trucks. Like, they would not even just steal, but they would go through their things. If you had a pickup truck, you'll have people coming into the parking lot and just snooping around. And back then, a lot of them would have beer and coolers, you know what I'm saying, on their truck for when they get off or whatever. So long story short, story long, Bean Team, I just had to set it up. These 2 dudes used to kept going into these people coolers and the things that they had on the back of their trucks. So one day Miller Mike got smart. He did this right here. Long story short, story long. He killed a rattlesnake. He killed a rattlesnake and he put it inside the cooler, Bean Team. So when the dude, and they sat right there and watched the dude go and sneak around, go up to his truck and try to go up in the cooler. And when the dude opened the cooler, he just seen a snake. He didn't know if the snake was alive or dead, but a big ass rattlesnake, and he freaked the F out, got the up out of there running for his life, like the damn snake following him, chasing him, about to kill him. And they said they never seen them 2 dudes again. Now that just reminds me of this story because pertaining to just the fact that these dudes was breaking into places, stealing boats and stuff, till maybe one day somebody got tired of them doing this ish and took matters into their own hands. Long story short, story long. I hope y'all was following me. Let's continue.
Good evening. Fear and anguish are gripping the families of 6 teenagers missing on Lake Ontario.
The teens disappeared after a Thursday night party. CFEO's Tom Hayes reports.
Family and friends held each other on the Pickering Beach today, desperately waiting word on the 6 teens that have disappeared.
The CCTV was soon discovered, so at least 3 of the boys were there, and 2 of the boats were also noticed to be missing. Everything from then on was assumed. We don't even know if the boys actually stole the boats that were missing, that were found, later to be missing from the marina. The boats were just, found to be missing, so people are assuming that the boys stole them and then, went out into the lake. A search of Lake Ontario brought up absolutely nothing for these 6. It's a lot of people to go missing. A lot of people to have no trace of 6 people to ever be found is bizarre. I mean, you're likely thinking they went out there, they were drunk, they were high, they were whatever, and they ended up drowning on, in March, freezing Lake Ontario. But it's incredibly bizarre that no sign of those boys has ever been found. What's even bizarre is that the police have seemingly stonewalled any attempt for people to investigate, to look into this case. For example, the CCTV, that was shown to the family once. When later on, more family said, can we review the CCTV again? The police denied ever having any footage of the Marina Bay that night. Other cameras seemingly were not working that night, also located at Frenchman's Bay, the marina there. CCTV showed 3 of the boys close to the marina: Michael Cummings, Robbie Rumbold, and Jamie Lefevre. The other 3 are never seen. Perhaps they went to another marina, we don't know. But who is seen is 3 other mysterious people at the marina that night. People who have never been identified. The mystery people appeared 20 minutes on camera after the boys did. It appeared to be a man and 2 women. Now, they've never been found, and it seems like the police never made any attempt to find them, at least publicly, even though they could be the last people to ever see the boys. If they were involved with the breaking in, the stealing, were they at the party too, were they friends with the boys, they have never come forward about, what they could have seen that night. The only thing ever found was that a couple of months later, a gas can, a red gas can believed to belong to that missing Boston whaler, was found east of where they had been. It was found in New York State, across the entire lake. How it got there, we don't know. Why it was detached from the Boston whaler, we don't know. Thing was, there was only a quarter tank left in the Boston whaler, which wouldn't have taken them very far if they did indeed take it. But it would have been enough to head south, towards somewhere like Toronto. They also found a pair of red pants, much like Jay had been wearing. Jay Boyle had been wearing a pair of red pants that night, the night he disappeared. However, DNA tests would reveal those red pants were not his. There were sightings of the boys over the years, in Toronto, New York, but that's all they were, unconfirmed sightings. It's a weird case, made all the weirder by the authorities' lack of desire to investigate what happened. Now, in a case like this, most likely, the 6 boys went out on the lake and had an accident. Boat sank, boys drowned in the freezing water. But the interesting thing about that theory, and again, it's the most obvious theory, makes the most sense, but one of the boats stolen was a Boston whaler, deemed to be nigh on unsinkable. I know you've probably heard that before, but literally this boat is designed to be unsinkable. You can cut it in half, and they don't sink. It would have sank eventually, after being out on the water maybe for weeks or months at a time. But how was it not found, when the search was still ongoing? It was never found, never sighted. That's why a lot of people believe that there was foul play involved, possibly, in this case. But either way, it's a haunting disappearance out on the endless Lake Ontario. The water was also reportedly very calm, and still that night too. It would have been difficult for the Boston whaler, an unsinkable ship, to sink in those conditions. Even though it can get extremely rough on that lake, that night and those days after, it wasn't at all. Where the gas can was found, well, the currents at that time should have taken it in the opposite direction, and the gas can would have only become separated from the boat intentionally. It's not like it would just fall off or something like that. So what if there was some kind of accident, a boat crash, a larger boat crashed into it in the middle of the night, didn't see it? Well, if that was the case, the boat somehow was ripped apart by some force, you'd expect there to be little bits floating across Lake Ontario. Literally nothing has ever been found. It's a weird story with a likely answer, but it leaves you with just enough questions to be haunted about the Lost Boys of Pickering.
Nah, Bean Team, I'm gonna just say with that one, man, that I feel like it was some foul play involved too, just like the first story. Long story short, story long. I don't think they just went out there and had an accident and just eventually drowned. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is no evidence of any pieces of the boat ever being found. And also, let's talk about the police real quick. Just the way and the shadiness of the police. First of all, not deciding to investigate these 6 people missing to literally 36 hours after they was reported missing. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that's just crazy within its own right. And then you showed the footage to some family members, but then when the other family members say they want to see the footage of the boys at the dock or the pier or whatever that night, now y'all saying y'all ain't got the footage. That's freaking strange. Like, the police was acting real shady with this one, being seen to also make me just wonder. Even the fact that there was 3 other people, what Mike said, it looked like 2 women and 1 man. You know what I'm saying? That was also found on that same freaking footage, and they ain't never investigate or figure out who the freak they was. You want to know why, Big T? Because they probably know who the freak they was, and they just acting stupid because they don't want to arrest them people, and they just want to throw this whole case away and act like it ain't exist. The damn police, long story short, story long, might know who the freak killed those 6 boys, and they just acting just trying to cover it up. It's a cover up. You know what I'm saying? That's what I should be saying, is a freaking cover up. That's a strong theory that I got too. Or maybe, just maybe, somebody, which goes back to my whole Miller Mike story, was pissed off that these boys, and it could have been those people, it could have been the two women and the man, pissed off that these boys keep breaking into their damn into this boat dock or pier or whatever and stealing boats and ish, so we gonna kill them all. And they could have literally like held them hostages at gunpoint, told them all to get on the boat, and just shot them and threw them in the water. That's another thing too. I don't know, BT. You see how these unsolved mysteries get me, but I love them, and I'm glad that I'm here with y'all once again, my friends. Let's keep going. We probably got one more story.
The night of August 1st, 1989, was a very strange and mysterious time, if you can believe that. And it was a very strange and mysterious time in Prince George, British Columbia. A family of 4, the Jack family. They all got into a strange man's car on the promise of work and were never seen again. The Jack family was made up of parents Ronald and Doreen, both 26 years of age, and their 2 kids, 9-year-old Russell and 4-year-old Ryan. They were all First Nations people. Little is known about the parents' upbringing, but from reports, Doreen's was pretty rough, full of mistreatment and abuse. The couple, Ronald and Doreen, met at 17 years of age, fell in love, they broke up, got back together. Russell wasn't Ronald's kid, but he treated him, just like he was. They had another, and they moved around a bit following the work. In the late 80s, they were in Prince George, BC, baby. Ronald had actually, unfortunately, just lost his job at the sawmill, and so they were in Prince George. They were on welfare, desperately trying to find income, to find somewhere new to work. And as you can imagine, those kind of pressures, trying to provide for your family, it can put it is a lot of pressure to put on this young family. Doreen, she started drink a lot. She resorted to stealing medicine for her 2 young boys. Ronald was having no luck getting work, to the point where he started hitting Doreen, and allegedly he owed a lot of money to someone. And so this case becomes very, very... Actually, this is by far, I think, one of the creepiest cases, because it was on the evening of August 1st, 1989, that Ronald Jack, he headed to a nearby pub, a nearby bar. Few scoops. We all need them, right? And he was in that bar, he was drinking some beers, and as he sat at the bar, he ended up just striking conversation with one of the guys nearby, who seemed like salvation, pure salvation, for Ronald and his family. Because it was at that bar he allegedly met a man who offered Ronald and his wife, Doreen, work. The thing they needed work. They needed money. He said he'd give Ronald and Doreen both jobs, and you know what? He'd even have daycare for their kids. He said he could take them to a logging camp near Kluklutz Lake, about a 45-minute drive due west of Prince George. Not far from Vanderhoof, where I've told you a few stories about. Also close to Highway 16. which you'll probably know better as the Highway of Tears, which I feel needs no introduction at this point. Name is a giveaway. But he said, you guys come with me. Ronald, you'll be logging. Doreen, you can be cooking. And, we even have daycare. Kids will be taken care of and all. As you can imagine, a desperate Ronald, hearing this, his eyes, his peepers just absolutely light up. When can I start? The stranger was described as a white guy, 6 feet and something tall, red hair, beard. Basically looking like a logger by how he was dressed. Baseball hat, checkered shirt. He said that he would have work for them 10 days to 2 weeks. He could even drive them. I'll even take you to the logging camp myself, because the Jack family, they had no means of transportation. They didn't have a car. How about we go tonight? He said.
Oh my God, man. I wish Ronald would have just thought this through a little better. Him and his wife or girlfriend, his baby mama. I wish they would have thought this through a little better. Because this story that, this white guy, mysterious man is selling them, it's a bunch of bull crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's too good to be true. Long story short, story long. You will drive us here. You got work for me and my wife, even though we don't know you at all. You know what I'm saying? I just met you in bar, but you got all this work for me, and not only that, but you also have a daycare at the freaking logging place for my children. Like, nah, man, this is too good to freaking be true. Something don't sound right about this. And I will say this also: whoever told him Ronald this story and fed him this BS, they had intentional murder on their mind from the beginning. This is one of those first degree premeditated murder type cases being seen. Like, whoever did this, they did this just so they can kidnap the whole Jack family. And now here we are.
The two men went back to the Jack's home, and Ronald even called his mom to let her know what was happening and to look for him if he didn't return. The family were witnessed by relatives packing up and getting into this stranger's car, and off they went, never to be seen again. Pretty terrifying. A desperate family taken away by who? For what? Why? Was there even did the logging camp even exist? Was he a serial killer? Because, judging from previous videos set in this area, there's a lot here. It was later that month, with no word from the Jack family, that Ronald's mom, Mabel, she reported them missing to the police. And they have never been found. Who they got into the car with, we may never know. Why he wanted the entire family why he said, we have daycare, take the kids too. Why he wanted the kids is bizarre. Even locals would say, when they were hearing about this, they would say the idea of a logging camp having daycare was mighty unusual.
Yes.
Now, some of my research says that when he met Ronald at the bar, he actually only said for Ronald and Doreen to come with him to the logging camp, that he just had work for the parents and to leave the kids at home. Then when Ronald and the stranger went back to Jack's house, Ronald actually called his brother asking, hey, could you take care of my kids for me for like 2 weeks while I go with this guy on this job? His brother said no for whatever reason. So then the stranger said, hey, we have daycare, so the kids can come too. It's all gravy. Ronald then said to his mom, they have daycare. I mean, maybe this stranger never even said daycare. Ronald just said it to his mom so she wouldn't be worrying that the kids were going with him. Who knows? But the fact that he did take the entire family is terrifying. And then they just got in this guy's car, went on the Highway of Tears, and were never seen again. I mean, usually when you have these stories of people disappearing on a road, getting into a stranger's car, it's unfortunately almost always a young woman. Not an entire family of 4 people. Maybe the logging camp was real. Maybe it was an illegal logging camp, and maybe after something happened to them after they had been working there, or they ran away. Well, it doesn't seem like they ran away, because this was put out far and wide that they were missing, and you don't exactly go on the run with your kids. The most likely scenario is that this stranger was a serial killer who abducted an entire family of 4, which is incredibly terrifying. But maybe he didn't think that the Jack family would be missed. They were down on their luck. They needed work, so they were desperate people. And serial killers will always take advantage of desperate people, and maybe he just didn't think anybody would come looking for them. Which, sadly, he was right, being, unfortunately, First Nations peoples, they don't really oftentimes get the detention their disappearances deserve. I mean, it was reported on, but it was not nearly as big news as it should have been when a family of 4, 2 young kids go missing. Last seen with a strange man. The case was called as soon as the family left that August night. No clues, no evidence.
And it's like, I just want to point out real quick, Bean Team, I understand that I can't remember their names right now, but the mama and daddy, the boyfriend and girlfriend, I can understand that they was financially in a effed up situation. You know what I'm saying? They was broke. They was desperate to find another job and try to have some income because they got 2 younger children. They need a roof over their head. They was desperate for it. But all I'm saying is, man, even when you're desperate, you still got to think things through. And this whole dream that this stranger sold them was too good to be true. It was just too freaking good to be true, man. And I wonder, like, did they know that it was gone wrong as soon as he pulled off with all them in the car? Or did he like string them along like, yeah, we're headed to the logging company, and then he just did something crazy? Like that family final moments, and not even just final moments, but like just maybe their last day alive after they got in that car was just something that you really don't even want to think about. Ugh.
It would be 6.5 years before something actually happened, and that was in January of 1996, when an anonymous call was made to the RCMP located in Vanderhoof, near the lake the family were supposed to be going to, where the logging camp was. A caller told the police the Jack family are buried at the south end of some ranch by accounts. Who that caller was, though, no one knows. The call was traced to a house in particular, and at the time of the call, there had been, in fact, a house party going on at this house. But who made the call, the police couldn't determine. Since then, however, there have been no updates on this sadly under-investigated case of a missing family. There have been searches done over the years, most recently in 2019, but they haven't announced any findings, as there were none to announce. If it was a serial killer, the entire case is highly unusual. Taking advantage of a desperate person, sure, but 2 people, an entire family? Usually serial killers will go for, people they know they can overpower. Usually it's women, but this was just someone he randomly met at a bar. How could he have known anything about his potential victims, Ronald's wife and his kids? The logging job sounds very, very fake, but it's not surprising someone eager like Ronald believed it or wanted it to be true. Who knows what happened to the family when they got into his car that dark night. This is what the family would look like today. It's a really disturbing story of a likely serial killer, taking advantage of a desperate family, a family that vanished, and there's a lot of room out there in British Columbia for a lot of things to go horribly wrong, and unfortunately, much like all the other victims of the Highway of Tears, we will never know what happened to the Jack family. Thank you so much for watching, folks. You know what? At this point, it means a lot to me that you're here watching this old video. I hope you found it as disturbing as I did. Researching these tales. The next old video will be up, when it's up, so please check it out. And as always, check out the That Chapter podcast, which has a brand new shampoo episode, podcast exclusive stories, every Monday morning, available for free on all podcast platforms. So do yourself a favor, give it a go, or else. But until then, please take care of each other, please take care of yourselves, because I love you. Mike out.
Yeah, Bean Team, it is always a delight when we get to go back to Mike, but it can be disturbing as hell too. You know what I'm saying? Just like Mike said, I hope you found this video just as disturbing, or these stories just as disturbing as I did. And yes, I did, man, because I feel like all 3 of these in a way like kind of shook me. You know what I'm saying, man? And I feel like the first and the third one is the ones where I really cannot come up with no type of real theory of what actually happened to him in different type of ways. Like the third one, we know that whoever that stranger was the ones that actually killed the Jack family. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really know like in what type of way could it actually had happened. Any type of way it happened, it's still effed up. And at this point, like Mike said, man, it's one of those unsolved mysteries that we can pretty much just guarantee or be like 99% sure it's never gonna get solved at this point. Being team, those little children are supposed to be grown adults now. We would have heard from them by now if they were still alive, man. It's just unfortunate, dude. And whoever killed them, they more than likely got to live out the rest of their life. Probably still alive, goddamn right now, whoever the freak that stranger was. The second one was the one where I can come up with the most theories of what potentially maybe had happened to him. And I said a lot of them, but at the same time, the theory that I still believe, and I'm maybe on 50% on this part as far as this, and now I'm 100% damn near as far as like somebody did this to them and when no accident, somebody actually killed those 6 people. But I'm like 50% on maybe the police had something to do with it or know who did it. You know what I'm saying? And now they just trying to cover it up just because of how weird they was acting. In the first one, y'all, with Logan, it goes back to the third one, man. It's one of those ones I cannot really come up with anything that freaking happened. Not only after he vanished or got caught or whatever. With the third one, we know that they actually got into the car with a stranger. We don't know who the freak Logan met. He was talking about epiphanies. It's reports and witnesses saying that they seen a completely different man jumping out of his car. So it's like, when did he get caught? When did he get abducted? When he got killed? Like, I don't know, being team. These freaking unsolved mysteries, man. These freaking unsolved mysteries. And I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go now. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.
If you're feeling lonely today, come along and throw your cares away. We're really glad that you're our friend, and this is a friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!